Hello and welcome to UX Insiders, a live event hosted by the UX Design Institute and featuring contributions from the most interesting and creative people in the UX field. In the UX Design Institute, we aim to deliver world-class education to the next generation of UX professionals. With our live events, we aim to bridge the gap between education and industry for budding designers by talking to some of the best people working in UX. And today's guests are raising the bar for us in more ways than one. Dialing in from Texas, we have some of Deque Systems' finest employees and disability advocates. Through auditing processes, consultation, and development, Deque is committed to advancing digital accessibility for all mobile and web products. Joining us today is Glenda, the Good Witch Sims, the Chief Information Accessibility Officer at Deque. With a background in development at the University of Texas, she is the co-author of A11Y, Ally, the Ally Wars, the Accessibility Interpretation Problem, and the co-founder of the Access U conference, which celebrates accessible digital design. We also have Patrick Sturdivant, the Vice President and Principal Strategy Consultant at Deque, and he has worked in IT for over 30 years and promotes the full engagement of people with disabilities. Focusing on accessibility testing for the last 8 years, Patrick has dedicated his career to solving the problem of inclusion for all through awareness, sharing his story and injecting a healthy amount of technology to make the work easier. Matthew Lucan is also joining us this evening. He is also the Vice President and Principal Strategy Consultant at Deque, and he is on standby just in case we have any tech issues. We are so excited to have you here today, and the response to this event has been so positive. There will be time for Q&A later, so I'll ask anyone tuning in to please type any questions you have for Glenda and Patrick in the questions panel, and we will run through them throughout the event. And if you see a question that you particularly like to hear the answer to, please upvote it. So let's get to it. Glenda, Patrick, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. It is fabulous to be here. Let me share my screen and get our PowerPoint presentation deck up and showing. I'm going to view slideshow and presenter view, and we should be a go. All right, can you see my screen, Louise?
Yes, we can. It's looking good.
All right, so welcome to Digital Accessibility and Challenge the Limits. As Louise said, I am Glenda the Good Witch Sims. Yes, I really do go by the Good Witch. On screen is an image from the musical Wicked, which I've only seen 6 times so far. You can find me on Twitter at GoodWitch, and we're about to explain the pound A11Y tag to you in just a moment. And Patrick, why don't you say hello to the crowd as the daredevil of accessibility?
Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Sturdivant. I'm also coming from Texas. You can find me on Twitter at, I think, Patrick_SATX, but you also can find me on LinkedIn or through Deque. And I'm excited to share my story and help you with your design journey to be inclusive.
Awesome. Well, we are so delighted to be here. And before we get rolling, I want to take just a moment to explain a term that is frequently used in our field. You're going to hear us refer to pound A11Y as a way to shorten the word accessibility. Accessibility is a really long word. There are exactly 11 letters between A and Y. Back in the early days of Twitter, when there were only 140 characters in each tweet, it took up too much space. So we came up with the shorthand of pound A11Y. We'll pronounce that A11Y, A11Y. We'll even say Ally, even though they're not L's. But when you hear us say that, we really just mean accessibility. So as we get started here, when Patrick and I heard about this opportunity to talk to you, we were like, yes, because as designers of digital space, it is so valuable for you to understand what accessibility is and how to use this as an advantage in the work that you're going to do to make the world and the web a better place. So let's start with the basics. What is accessibility? As you think about it for a moment, you may not know yet. So I want to give you a definition that's simple, one that you can carry with you in your heart, that you can change into your own words. And it's one that was given to me by one of my mentors, Sharon Rush. Sharon taught me that accessibility is when all people, regardless of disability, can get the same information and do the same things independently. So that's a definition that I hope you can grab hold to, carry on, and put into your own words. With that foundational piece of what accessibility is, equal access for people with disabilities, let's take a moment and look at what is disability. So if I asked each of you to start naming some disabilities, what are the first ones that you would think of? And I'll share with you from my work in the field. I have been working in the field for more than 20 years. I break it down into the 5 major categories. And I literally use my face to remind me of most of them. So disabilities related to vision, disabilities related to hearing, disabilities related to motor, which is fine dexterity as it relates to using a computer keyboard or using a mouse, and other things related to motor. Speech as an input device can become a disability for people that aren't able to speak clearly so that a computer can understand it. And then the last category is cognitive. And as we look at these different disability types, I want you to think broader than just, I can't see it all, or I can't hear it all, or I can't use my hands at all. It really is a spectrum. We'll get into that a little bit more in just a minute. So I told you accessibility is how people with disabilities have equal access. And we've talked just a moment here about the different disability types. So now comes a question. How does a person who can't see use a computer? This is just one of our disability types. And rather than me tell you about it, I want to hand the floor over to Patrick Sturdivant. So Patrick, I think that your vision is none, right? Hey, Patrick.
So 1 second, we just have to unmute Patrick's microphone.
Okay.
Am I unmuted?
There you go, free to go.
So another way to put it is I have no light perception in either eye, so I am totally blind. I was born with glaucoma. I did have some vision for 14 years in one eye. So I do know what it's like to see, but I haven't seen in a very long time. And I am going to demonstrate how I use the computer today, both desktop and mobile. And I thought, what better way to do that than to take you on a little adventure ordering groceries. So the Livestorm platform we're using today for this webinar is they're on a journey for accessibility. There are a few bumps, so you're going to hear some things. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to work on that. Give me 1 second. Share. I'm going to share my screen. And select the entire screen. I'm going to share my system audio, so you're going to hear the computer better. And please let me know when you see my screen.
I see it.
Great. Now the question is, can you hear it?
Title is left parent 13, right parent insider vertical.
Yes.
Select challenge ellipse vertical RX Design Institute desktop content share Google Chrome.
That was the title for my current window. This is the voice that I like to use to do regular work with, and this is the speed that I use. This, believe it or not, this voice here has been around for almost 25 years, and it's still one of the most popular voices. I am going to bring up another voice in just a second. But as you can see, when you are blind and you work in tech, you need information very fast, very quick, and very efficiently. So that's why after 25 years, I'm still using the same software package. So I'm going to now move over to a website. And let's see here.
Title is left parent 16 right parent insider vertical bar. Left parent 16 right parent insider.
Come
Title is
on.
left parent 12 right. Title is left parent. Address and search bar edit A type in text and
There we go.
G dash B
Now,
vertical bar.
Glenda, if I need to maximize anything, please let me know.
I will.
We are at the website of our favorite local grocery store if you live in Central or South Texas, called HEB. And I am going to just kind of go through the process. I've been using this company's software to order groceries and have them delivered for now about 4 years, actually even before COVID. But during COVID, it was really critical that I was able to get groceries independently so that you have an awareness. I live alone and I'm very independent and get very frustrated, as Glenda knows, when Patrick can't do something by himself because he likes to be independent. So we are going to first, I'm already logged into this site. I'm going to change the voice real quick. And
Professional. Menu bar options. Voices sub rail dot voices sub enter voice adjustment dot select the voice profile enter leaving menu select the voice profile. Microsoft SAPI 5X SAPI 5X vocalizer expressive 5.
JAWS Professional.
There is a new voice.
To move to an item, press the arrow keys. HEB Curbside Pickup and Grocery Delivery Hub.com Google Chrome. To move to an item, press the arrow keys. HEB Curbside Pickup and Grocery Delivery Hub.com Google Chrome.
Now, I just hit the control key on my keyboard. I tell you that because many times the voice will start reading and you already know what it's going to say, and you don't want to be bothered with it reading a ton of stuff that you don't need. Control shuts the voice off temporarily and lets me move around. I'm gonna let you now hear a little bit of this page. I normally, even when I hit a brand new website, I don't read the entire page. It would take too long. Just like you probably don't read every word on every web page. You skim around and look around, and then you focus in on what you want. I'm going to do the same thing by looking at the headings, and we're going to walk the headings.
Fresh and easy heading level 3. Ready to serve fruits heading level 3 link. Taco night done right.
And of course, this company is really good at marketing their products and getting you to buy some things that you probably weren't expecting to need.
Easy family.
And of course, they're there to help you plan meals.
Hatch is
and
back.
Hatch peppers are back. It's Hatch pepper season.
All the ways
and of course,
to save
any good grocery
3.
store is going to help you save money.
Shop our
And
weekly
it's nice that I have access to the ads.
Save even more with
Okay, and believe it or not, we can even clip coupons electronically.
$1 off select HEB frozen treats heading level link $1 off. Link graphic pecan brownies, M&M cookies and white frosted mini cupcakes.
I don't know if you caught it, but that's a
sprinkles.
graphic that was described, and it sounds like it's full of sugar.
Heading level 3 links.
Okay, here are the desserts.
Link graphic Yingling Light Lager and Michelob Ultra. Heading level 3
Okay,
links.
somehow we've gotten from desserts to looks like liquor.
Link graphic
But
HEB
anyway, we're
combo
here
pack
to
of
actually order
knives.
groceries. So guys, I'm going to actually just let you know kind of how I order groceries. And one of the interesting things I want you to be aware of, this company offers their online ordering through their website as well as their mobile on their phone. And I normally go back and forth depending on what it is I'm doing. I will change platforms because there are some functions that are just easier to do on the web. There are some that are on mobile that are easier because it's a lighter weight product. Like any organization, accessibility is something you never finish. You're always on that journey. This company has done a lot of great work to make my life of ordering groceries a good one, but they have some opportunities to still improve, and I see that. So what I'm going to first do, what I always do is I grab my order from before, I copy the order, and then I edit the order, and then I add whatever else I need. So I'm going
Virtual find.
to first ask
Enter.
JAWS to find my name.
Collapsed
And
visited
I
menu
can
link
see
hi.
here it says, "Hi
Patrick.
Patrick." It's a menu. I'm going to open that
Space.
up.
Link lists.
Come on,
Collapsed
open up.
visited menu space. Same page link skip to content. Page 210 my HEB heading left communication
Okay, it's
payment
being
method. My
a
virtual
little
find.
stubborn.
Enter.
There we go.
Collapsed visit enter. Collapsed visited menu link hi. Pat same page link skip to content. Link wellness. Link lists. Collapsed visited menu link hi.
Come on.
Patrick space. Banner region list with 3 items. Hi, Patrick collapsed menu link. Same page link skip to content.
There,
account
as you
heading
can see, I had to actually hit that 2 or 3 times to get it to finally open for me. I'm not sure, Glenda, if you noticed anything unusual, but it was a little bit of a pain, but it did open up.
Yep.
My account current
And I'm
page.
going to go to my account.
Heading level 1 my account. Heading level 3 button collapsed my
My
orders.
orders is what I want. So I'm going to open that.
Space. Main region. My orders heading level 3 button expanded. To activate press enter.
Notice that it told me the state that it's now expanded. So it told me that it was a button. It told me at first that it was collapsed, now that it's expanded.
Keep track of your current and past orders. Link view past purchases.
Okay, we're going to
Enter.
click on this link.
My orders region.
View past purchases.
Visited link go to cart page. Page has 4 regions, 10 headings and 72 links. Visited link go to cart page. Link shop, link recipes.
And again, I just hit control to stop the voice because I don't want to hear everything. I'm now going to try to get down to my orders by using headings.
My account visited online orders savings head features head past purchase sign
past purchases is a heading. Good. This is what I want.
Due to high online traffic, past purchases are temporarily unavailable.
Okay, so I've seen this before. Don't ask me why the past purchases aren't available, but we're flexible, we're agile, we don't give up and we don't say no. We will get these groceries. So I just grabbed my phone and now we're going to I'm going to open up the app on my phone. Come here. Oh, got the weather up. Let me Okay, let me pull up the app. There we go. It's called My HEB. And here I'm going to try to do the same thing. Orders.
Selected. Orders. Tab.
Going to touch the screen.
Add all to cart. Button.
Here we go. View all. I've had one here open. Delivered.
View all. Add all to cart.
I'm going to hit the Add all to cart button. Come on. Give me some feedback. Touching the screen, wherever I touch it.
Okay. Button.
Oh, wait a minute.
HEB ground chicken breast 97%.
Okay.
Cart changes.
Okay, it's
Cart changes. Cart HEB ground chicken breast 97% lean. The product HEB ground chicken breast 97% lean is not available in disable HEB. Please select a different store.
Okay, it's telling me that I can't get ground chicken. I'm not happy.
Okay. Button.
We'll have to deal with that.
Get help. Button. Delivered. View all. Button. Add all to cart. Button.
Okay.
View all.
So I'm going to close this.
Past orders. Button. 1.
Come here. Give me the close button.
View details.
It's
button. Add all to cart. Delivered. Delivery. View details. Add all to cart. View all. Delivered.
Come on. Here, hang on one second, guys. It's kind of hard doing this backwards.
Selected. Past orders. Button. 1 of your orders. View
Okay.
details. Shop. Tab.
Shop. We're going to go now. I flipped over to shop. What I want to see is if it got into my cart.
Product category. Meat and seafood. Product category. Tab bar. Orders. Coupon. Product category. Meat and tab bar. Orders. Cart. 59 items.
Yes, there's 59 items in my cart. So now the ability to change the quantities of things in my cart is a little hard on the phone. So I'm going to go back now to the desktop. Yeah, I know this sounds crazy, but when you're a professional blind guy and your mission is to get the job done and eat something, you do whatever it takes. So now we're back on my desktop.
Title is Past Purchases Google.
Okay, so I'm going to now go to my cart.
Virtual effects ART enter. Cart. Visited link go to cart page.
Okay. clicked on
Enter.
that visit, go to cart page.
Banner region. Go to cart page. Link. carthub.com.
Now, if everything's working
carthub.com.
right, it should have pulled my cart no matter where I'm at.
Same page link skip to review cart
Review
heading level
cart.
1. Heading level 2 delivery. Villas at the
And you can
choose
see here,
heading
it
level
wants to know where I want to deliver and the time. I haven't set that yet.
close speech link a add to cart bot link a
Now,
GB
notice
pencil
also here,
bottom
they're trying to upsell me on some products. So I'm going to,
add link HEB Ultracon close featured
thankfully,
products
they have this
button.
nice closed feature products button so I can get that out of my
Enter.
way.
Allows up. Heading level 2 dairy and eggs. Remove HEB grade AA Omega Plus cage free large brown eggs. 12
Okay, so
CT
here
button.
we have all the products, and I have buttons to control. So I'm going to move now by buttons.
Add note button menu collapsed menu. Quantity controls for HEB grade AA Omega Plus cage free large brown eggs. 12 CT current quantity. 1 group. Remove value. Current quantity.
Well, you know what? I
1
don't need
button.
eggs because I have eggs still. So I'm going to remove this item.
Add note
So I
button.
remove
Remove
that.
HEB space.
Now we're
Main
going
region.
to skip.
Add note button. Increment
And
value.
here you
Remove
can
not milk.
increment, decrement, delete. I have milk here.
Add note but quantity increment. Remove healthy choice Italian chicken sausage
Now,
pepper power bowls. 9.25
I think I
ounces
need
button.
some more of these pepper power bowls. So I'm going to add.
Add note button. Quantity controls for healthy choice Italian chicken sausage pepper power bowls. 9.25 ounces. Current quantity. 3 group.
There's the button
Decrement
to
value.
decrement.
Current quantity. Increment value. Current space. Decrement value. Current quantity. 4.
Now,
Remove
I don't know if you
HEB
caught
grade
it.
AA Omega.
When I hit the increment, it said decrement, but it did bump the number up. They've got a little problem with the reading on that. Like I said, nothing is perfect. This company is continuously working to make things better. So that's what you need to remember. Most people who are disabled, we know when an organization is trying to make things better, and we know things aren't perfect and it takes time. So you live with things. But so we have this card here. I could go through here and adjust it all, but we're not going to do that. What I want to show you next is just real quick how I would search for an item that's maybe not on my old list. Let's say I need something new. Glenda, be thinking about something new I should search for. Search screen.
I want some dark
Search
chocolate.
HEB.
Oh my God, you want to be bad. Dark chocolate.
Dark
Because
chocolate
Glenda knows
is good for
Patrick.
you, Patrick.
Glenda knows Patrick normally
Enter.
doesn't eat dark chocolate, but I do love it, but it's not good for my waistline. So
Search. DAOCAT.
now,
Blank. Reset. Selected. Dark chocolate edit combo. Reset
there,
button.
hit the search button.
Space. Dark chocolate HEB.
And it went and searched. I haven't heard anything. I'm going to now search by headings.
H. Virtual dark
Here we
chocolate
go.
heading level 1.
I don't want
Sign up for dark chocolate category. Link
okay, so we got
bakery
to
and
figure out
bread.
where do we want to look for dark chocolate.
Link beverages. Link dairy and eggs. Link deli and link frozen.
Maybe not.
Link health and beauty.
Okay, I'm going to go
Link
to the next
pantry.
heading.
Sign up for company heading our services.
Okay, my
Customer
heading,
service
you're not
heading
doing
level
what I
2.
want.
More from HE
So now
wrapping to
I'm
top.
going to search
Virtual
dark
font. Enter. Heading level 1
Okay.
dark chocolate.
filter
by.
category.
Category. Link bakery and
Well,
bread. Link
I
beverages.
don't
Link dairy
want
and
to filter.
link. Popular link
Here we
60
go.
not checked 62.
Okay,
Has
we got
coupon.
coupons.
So you're having
62
to
not checked has coupon does not.
figure out how to navigate the page, because I can see all these chocolates right away, but you
Which
have
is
to figure
not
out
fair.
what the structure is.
Screen lock.
Brand.
Oh, okay,
Link
we have the
HEB.
brand.
40 not link 7 not link 3 not link 2 not checked Atkins is not select link 4 not checked Bakers is not selected. Show all button. Ways to shop. Links nav.
I just want
not YouTube,
chocolate.
not
I'm
link
moving down.
not link 128. Not checked gluten. Link set. Not checked show up. Link to 300. Not checked. Link 4. Not link to. Not link 3. Not 3. Link add to list. But link HEB dark
Okay.
covered chocolate almonds. 10 ounces.
Now this is good,
$4.10 each.
Glenda. It's dark chocolate covered almonds. The almonds are healthy, so I
There
might
you
buy
go.
that.
There you go.
So the dark chocolate covered almonds. Okay. So
add to cart button. Enter. Main region. One added button.
You know
to
what?
activate,
I
press
should
enter.
be a nice person and I should share this with Glenda, but I'm not good at sharing, so I'm gonna.
Enter.
I just hit the
two
enter
added
key
button.
again, and it added another one into my cart. So the adding and subtracting of items is easier on the website versus the phone. But so I have this added into my cart.
Add to list. Link to promises.
There's a bunch I can add to my cart.
Add to list button. Add to cart
we're
button.
now going to look at the cart.
Enter. To
The
activate,
cart should have
press
incremented.
add to cart button. Add
Well,
to
let's
link
see here. I
Lily's
need to
almond
get
dark.
to the bottom.
Link favor delivery. Go button. Open the top. Load more items button. Save recipe.
I'm
Save
navigating
save
through the
recipe.
buttons looking for my cart.
Save recipe.
And-
Save recipe. Dark chocolate
Okay.
heading. Sign up for exclusive. Virtual font. Enter. Visit link to the cart page 62 items in your.
We're at 12:26.
Okay, perfect.
And I'm going to suggest you flip us into telling us more about different experiences outside the grocery store.
Sounds good. We have the cart and we got our mission. All we would have left to do is go into the cart, click a few buttons to wrap up the order and have it delivered. Where do you want me to start? Let's talk about independence. We've been talking about that some.
Yeah.
Accessibility is so important because, people always think that, well, you have people help you. And I do have a lot of people that help me. And I do appreciate all the help that I get. But there are times when you don't want some help, or there are times that you can't get help, especially if you live alone. Let's think about some of the times that you may not want help. Let's pretend, I know you probably don't live in the US, but in the US, we have to pay income tax. Every year, we have to report our income. And for the longest, I had to rely on people to help me do my income taxes. Now, yes, Patrick could hire a company to do them for him, but he likes to do things on his own. And there is software that allows you to do your income taxes, and it's come a very long way. And I was able to use the software for the longest, but I still had to have someone help me with the very end because I had to print everything off. I had to sign things. I had to address envelopes. I had to mail a check, maybe do all those kind of things. One of the most exciting things in my life was when I could finally do my income taxes all by myself, because the software made by Intuit, and there are other companies that make that software, had gotten to the level of accessibility and functionality where I could do my income tax by myself. I could electronically file. I could either receive funds electronically or send funds to the government electronically. I could do everything paperlessly, independent. And that was just the most wonderful thing because, there are some things you just don't want to share your finances with maybe your neighbor or a friend or even a family member. So there are other examples of where you want privacy. Voting is another example, being able to have an accessible voting experience, interacting with medical records, signing contracts. If you're going to buy a new item that maybe is kind of pricey and you have to sign a contract, you may not want your family to know how much money you're spending on that new vehicle. And by the way, Patrick does own 2 vehicles. I buy vehicles and I have a driver, but I may not want my brother to know how much I paid for my new truck, and I shouldn't have to. I should be able to review that sales contract and sign it independently. So
I love that you own a truck. I think that's awesome.
well, everyone in Texas has to own a truck. I mean, otherwise you get funny looks. But yes, I own a truck. But remember the European side of me, I also own a Mercedes. So got to have both. So while we're talking about independence, and we've been talking a lot about the web and mobile. We touched a little bit on contracts. Everything is PDF based now. Digital signatures, all those things have to be accessible. Emails, PowerPoint, slide decks. But there are other things that I expect to be accessible. Digital accessibility to me is anything from consumer electronics like my TV, which is an Amazon Fire TV that has a screen reader, to other products, to include
What is
Peloton Tread that I hope you guys can see. We think, this is my personal opinion, this is the first treadmill that is accessible to a blind person. It's got a screen reader on it. Now, unfortunately, today, due to time limitations, we're not going to be able to demo it, but Peloton just announced that Tread, as well as Bike, which was out a few years ago, has the TalkBack screen reader. So I can have a fully inclusive Peloton interactive jogging, running session on my Tread with full access to all the controls, all the stats, and all the menus using the TalkBack screen reader. So when I say digital accessibility is everywhere, I really do mean that. It's everywhere. And I should not have just one product to pick from. I want to go in and look at a list of 20 different microwave ovens, and they all should be accessible to me. I should be able to pick the one that works best for me. I shouldn't have to pick the microwave, the only one that's accessible. So we do have a lot of work still to do.
Patrick, I might ask you a question here when it comes to people who are involved with product design, or people who are maybe trying to convince their managers that a product should be more accessible. So access, as we know, can sometimes be treated as a last-minute add-on. But in your opinion, is there such a thing as too late to become accessible?
Well, I never want to say never, because I learned never to say never because I've had to eat those words. It's never too late. You can always go back and retrofit. The problem is it costs a lot of money. Let's take that microwave oven, for example. To take an off-the-shelf microwave oven and go retrofit it and go through that whole process to update everything and update your manufacturing process and the software to take an existing microwave, it's not worth it. Yes, you can do it, but it's kind of late. The best time to want to be inclusive of all in your design is when you start with a blank sheet of paper and you involve everyone at the table. So when you're designing that microwave or that website or the app on your phone, think about who is going to use it. And don't just think about a 25-year-old male or female that has good vision, hearing, use of their hands. Think about all kinds of people with all different age ranges, from all different backgrounds and all different abilities. You want everyone to buy your product or use your software or your app. And the best time to do that, design that, the cheapest time to do that is at the very beginning, because it literally costs very little now to update software. You can make a microwave accessible by just making software updates. It doesn't cost any more to manufacture. And Amazon has proven that.
And Glenda has very kindly added in our chat box here that you actually worked with Peloton to design how their treadmill works with a screen reader. And Glenda says that it is literally the first treadmill in the world with a screen reader on it. And that proves your point, where thinking of everybody who could be using this product was involved in day one. Do you have any advice for any of our product designers out here who are maybe kind of in the user testing phases of design, and how they could actually get more people involved with a wider range of disabilities?
My best suggestion is to get out into the disability community, and it takes time, and build some relationships, meet people, engage people with disabilities, just get to know them as a person. And by the way, once you get to know them, you have that network, you can start asking questions or asking them to help. And I mean, you can take it to as much of a degree as you want, but having an awareness for your own knowledge so that when you do sit down and you're designing that new whatever it is, you may not be an expert on being deaf or an expert on being blind, but you ought to know a few pointers, and you maybe if you have some contacts, if you need some details, you can pull in your network of people you know and get that input you need. Reach out to organizations for the disabled, or organizations like DQ that have all kinds of tools and resources and people to help. Get the training that's out there. There's a lot of great training. Just expose yourself to the world of possibilities that you want your product to be used by everyone, because that is your goal. I would hope that the last thing you want to do is design something that leaves people out. I would not want that.
And I'll suggest, Louise, when we were brainstorming about this session, one of the things that we talked about is this is the beginning session. This is the wake up awareness session, and we're looking at. We didn't just want to talk theory. We wanted to have you meet Patrick so that you could see how possible it is. But I put into chat, Sean Lawton Henry is a speaker that I highly recommend that you that you reach out to and ask her to speak on this topic specifically, usability testing with people with disabilities. She literally wrote the book. It's called Just Ask. And I put a link in here. So sure, you could read it, but heck, you just need to reach out to her and she'll speak to you on it. So Patrick, I could listen to you all day, but there are a couple more things that I want to share. Can I still screen share?
Yes, 1 second.
And
25 UX Insider X
steal
settings
it.
button. Share button space. Disable share.
Did that let go?
I just stole it back.
Perfect.
Yay. So let me get back into my mode where I'm in presenter view, so things are bigger. So you've gotten a little glimpse into what it's like for someone like Patrick, who is a smart, independent individual that lives on his own, despite the woman that's in the background. The woman in the background is a coworker of ours. Thank you, Kirsten, because this software platform, Livestorm, is not fully accessible, and we didn't want Patrick to get into a box and not have some support. But accessible.
I think it might be good if we actually reflect a little bit on the process that it took for us to actually make sure that Patrick could participate in this call at all. So we met for the first time about a month ago, I think, was it?
Yeah, about a month.
To run through the process of actually using Livestorm and to see how accessible it would be and compatible it would be with the JAWS screen reader that Patrick uses. So if we want to just reflect on that and just explain the extra time and actual labor, emotional labor that goes into making sure that a product is actually accessible for someone with a disability.
Yeah, we originally asked if we could use Zoom, because we know that the Zoom platform is accessible. It's not perfect, but the majority of accessibility features are there. And we determined that Livestorm had some extra features that we wanted to stay with. And so Patrick, daredevil that he is, we first tried, Patrick, where I think you just took a stab at it and discovered, did you discover it on your own that it was very inaccessible, unlabeled buttons?
Well, yeah, the very first time we met, we had some issues, we learned some things, but we struggled that first time to share the screen. And we pretty much gave up and said we're probably going to have to get some assistance here. But I hate to give up. So I started playing with it some more. I signed up for a free account. I thought I had it figured out. We reached back out to the team and said, let's have another couple more sessions. So we were able to figure it out, poking and playing. A lot of the problems with accessibility is just figuring out a workaround, or like there are, and for example, on Livestorm, there are a lot of unlabeled buttons. So there are buttons that I have no clue what they are, or they, like when I had to open up my account, I had to click it like 3 or 4 times to make it work. It's those strange oddities, but we were able to get the Livestorm to work by myself. We brought Kirsten in just as an extra measure of insurance because we wanted to make sure you guys had a good experience.
We decided to carry an umbrella because if you carry an umbrella, it usually doesn't rain, right?
Right, and Kirsten is our big umbrella, yes.
And Matthew's on the call too. I mean, literally, you have 2 VPs, IAO, because this tool should have been able to be used by Patrick independently. It's perfectly capable of being made accessible, but it's not. And so we wanted to make sure that it was a flawless experience for y'all. And so all this unnecessary human support in that we didn't want to hit a brick wall in the middle of the presentation. We didn't want to show it to you that way. And I also want to thank Matthew, who I think was at one point even willing, you worked with him a couple of times.
Yes.
And you were using a second computer to window in on your first computer so that Matthew could be wise, right?
We were trying all kinds of stuff because we were at one point I was Zooming with him on the company computer, and we were live storming on my personal computer, and we were having multiple sessions going trying to figure this all out. So
and so when we start with these concepts of accessibility and we think about how important it is to have independence, and I see a couple of questions that have come in about like, how do we make everybody do this? Well, I want to tell you this. Tim Berners-Lee is the man that really created the web. And thank goodness he did, because my entire career is based on it now. And when he designed it, y'all, he designed it so that everyone could use it and that it would be available on everything, not just a PC, not just an iPhone. He designed it with accessibility in mind. Literally, the web was designed so it could be accessible. And so as you're trying to convince other people who may not have gotten it yet, how important it is to do this, and we looked at official disabilities, but I want to take it further than that, because what is so exciting is that, well, I got started in this field because I was working at the University of Texas at Austin. And I thought, how dare we allow a person with a disabilities to not have equal access to learn at the university? I'm like, I can't do that. We can't. And so that's where I got started in this in the late 90s. But then along the way, I started to realize that this creates a better design for all, because everything that we talked about also helps people on a slow internet connection. If they have a missing plugin, it can be like being blind or deaf. If you have no speaker, it's like being deaf. Small display is very much like low vision. Eyes busy and hands busy are like motor disabilities. Noisy environment. All of a sudden, we're getting into the things that are accessible, that help people with disabilities actually can make a better experience for us all. Now, this is something I want you to investigate. So I'll tell you at the W3C, there are some perspective videos where you can explore these. I won't go into any more detail than that, and we'll make sure and get this deck to Louise so she can share it out. But this is the concept that I wanted to get to. James Craig at Apple shared this with me years ago. Universal design so thoughtful that it works for everyone from the start. As Patrick said, don't purposefully exclude people like Patrick or people with disabilities. And here's the fun part, y'all. This is where it gets really exciting. Apple and IBM and Microsoft and Google are actually using accessibility as an innovation tool. They've been doing it for over a decade. If you look on your phones right now, whether it's Apple or Android, you're going to see accessibility features. Perhaps they began this journey thinking the way I did at University of Texas. Well, of course I have to give them equal access. It's like a human right. Then, as we were doing the right thing, good karma, and what James Craig at Apple said to me before he worked at Apple is, let's redefine what disability is. And I'm going to super fast forward through this. Here's a woman. Does anyone recognize her? So, in my opinion, a beautiful woman. She seems tall. She's seated wearing a black dress, blonde hair. Her name is Amy. Can you guess what her disability might be? For me, it's not obvious. And many times people think perhaps she has a cognitive disability, an invisible disability. Well, I'll tell you, if you look closely, her legs are prosthetics. And I'm showing the next slide where Amy Mullins, who happens to be a model, she has 12 pairs of legs. And what she realized is that her need for prosthetics, because she's a double amputee below the knee, gives her the ability to define herself and to be more than human. I highly recommend her TED Talk, My 12 Pairs of Legs. But take that idea about accessibility and raising us above human ability, more than human, redefining this into accessibility or extra ability. And I want you to challenge the limits. I don't want you to think about accessibility as something that's like, oh my gosh, because I had to define this for Patrick, I can't make it pretty. Patrick, is that true? If we define it, if we design something for you, does it have to be boring and black and white?
No, you can design it any way you want. Just make sure it's properly documented with accessibility, and it can be accessible and pretty.
Yeah, it absolutely can. And so if we had more time, I'd tell you more about Mark Riccobono at the National Federation of the Blind, but I am going to tell you quickly that Mark blew my mind. Mark is blind. He has a little bit of light perception. And what he decided is, just like Patrick, anything should be possible. Absolutely anything. So I want you to close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to imagine if you were Patrick, if you were suddenly Patrick, what is it that you wouldn't know how to do yet? Patrick already knows it because, hey, he's smart. But what would you need to learn how to do? What are some things that you'd worry you couldn't do anymore? Think about that for a moment. A common one that comes up is, Patrick, can a blind person drive a car?
Not yet.
Not,
we're working on it.
not in the average, but Mark Riccobono and the National Federation for the Blind actually did create a car that Mark Riccobono, who is blind, could drive. So if you want to explore that, you can go to the Blind Drivers Challenge. There's a link here. Was Mark trying to say that all blind people should be able to drive their own trucks and cars? Not necessarily. What Mark was going to say, what Mark was saying, is that with technology, anything is possible. And I'll tell you real quickly, this car, it actually provides haptic feedback to Mark, and he drives it on the Daytona racetrack. and that there's a truck in front of him throwing off random boxes, that this vehicle that he's standing next to, it's like an SUV that Virginia Tech put lasers and cameras on. All of the data from the lasers and cameras are being fed into a system that tells Mark through haptic feedback in gloves when to turn, and haptic feedback on his back and on his legs when to accelerate on his back, and on his legs when to brake. So that absolutely anything is possible. So I hope that you recognize that this isn't just a human rights issue. This is an opportunity for innovation, and that you as designers get to figure out how you're going to make accessibility happen. And what we'll share with you is a number of things that you could choose to do, from attending free sessions, choosing to watch the Blind Drivers Challenge, thinking about accessibility from the start. With that, I want to say, let's open it to questions. What do you have for us, Louise?
Yes, we've loads of questions coming in, and it's always a pity that we don't have more than the hour to get through this, because this has been such a fascinating time. And there's a brilliant line in Amy's TED Talk where she says to someone that she suddenly is taller because she has two taller accessible legs, or two prosthetic legs. And the person she's talking to goes, "That's not fair." And I think that that's the way that we should view how accessible features should be above average, and unfortunately they aren't in a lot of cases. So the questions we have got here now, so we've a question here from Michael, and it's for Patrick. So Patrick, when you're navigating through a web page, Michael noticed that you needed to cycle between different elements, example headings to links. What kind of feedback are you expecting to know when to switch between elements?
When I don't get what I want from one item, I'll flip to another one. So I'm flipping because I'm not seeing what I want, and if I flip from links to headings to buttons and I don't get it, then I start reading in more detail and homing in until I find what I want. Or I may do a search on a keyword. A lot of times a web page is pretty big, and if I'm at the hardware store and I want a hammer and I know that this is a page full of tools, I might just search for the word hammer and it'll get me, I'll hit all the hammer links. And then, so there's just different ways I do it, but usually it starts with headings.
We have a question here from Pete who asks, if I was to try and convince a very stubborn group of stakeholders that accessibility is important and is worth investing in, what reasons would you put forward to justify the investment in designing for accessibility?
They need to help themselves. The selfish reason. The disabled community is the largest minority. It's a minority that anyone can join. Any of us, including Patrick, could develop a disability tomorrow. There's nothing to say that tomorrow you couldn't wake up with a hearing problem or a vision problem or a loss of use of a hand maybe. So people who are against doing things to improve inclusion and the disabled are really hurting themselves. They might not hurt themselves today or tomorrow, but in the future, at some point in your life, you're going to need this. None of us can stay that young and active 25-year-old. We all age, and as you age, the likelihood of disabilities increases. So I would just tell them, we're doing this for everyone, but that includes you. You're helping yourself when you promote accessibility.
I'd like to know as well, so I'm a wheelchair user, so I am often faced with a similar question from non-disabled people who complain about how accessible features look or how they function, and to non-disabled people, they don't seem good enough. But for people like Patrick and I, these features are helping us exist. But when it comes to project designers, and if they're complaining about how an accessible feature looks or performs, who is in charge of that?
I would say if we're in the design stage, it's still the designer's responsibility because we can make things look however you want. There may be a little compromise. Let's say with colors, color contrast is a really important item, and so a designer may pick this palette of colors, and it may look really good to the average person. But if you look at everyone, we may need to tweak those colors a little bit to provide a little extra contrast, so that people who maybe are over the age of 40 and their eyes are a little bit more mature might find it easier to read that or see that because there's better contrast. But there is sometimes some compromise.
And I want to add one thing to that. So I'm also getting involved in the accessibility of games and educational interactives. And one of the things that you need to hold true to when you're coming up with an accessibility design or a universal design is to never compromise, in that the user experience should be rich and beautiful for everyone. And that if you feel as a designer that making it accessible is making it worse for somebody, then you need to back up a few steps and go, okay, I need to think bigger, or I need to be more creative. And so in a particular game that I was working to make accessible, it was gorgeous and beautiful, and it had to do with pattern matching. And so what we did is we left the original design as is, which is unusual for me, but we also added a high contrast mode. So I usually try and solve it all in one, but occasionally we'll have two modes.
A big comment that we've seen throughout the chat box is that this is inspiring. And I would like to see this actually inspire a lot of our blossoming product designers and UX designers to actually put that inspiration into action. And also there's a lot of people who are thinking about products in a new way. So we've a question here from Al Rahim, who asks, why don't companies build rich voice experience websites or e-commerce stores that can help people with visual disabilities? For example, Alexa, I want to order dark chocolate from heb.com.
Some of it has to do with time. Some of it has to do with awareness. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of people out there who, when they meet Patrick, it's their first experience meeting someone with a disability. And I'm amazed, but it's the truth. So a lot of it has to do with awareness. People just don't know any better. I don't think there are very many people on the planet who get up in the morning and say, I'm going to intentionally design this or develop this to be inaccessible because I don't want people like Patrick using it. I don't think that happens. I think what happens is they don't have the awareness. They don't know any better. They may be under some time constraints. They may not have planned for it, but I really don't think they're trying hard to intentionally sabotage my accessibility. But it does take time. It takes spreading the word. It takes people having those experiences and thinking outside the box in other ways to do things. And we've made so much progress. And I'm sure Glenda would agree, but we still have so much work to do.
Yeah. And the voice, I remember when voice first came out and I was like, oh God, computers don't understand me because I have a Texas accent. And yet I started to hear my friends that were blind say that some things were so much easier. And you saw Patrick navigate between the desktop and his phone. And I bet there are times, Patrick, where you're like, man, it's just way easier to get Alexa or Siri.
It is. Many times when I'm out and about doing things, it's like, I wish I was home so I could just yell at you-know-who and ask her to do this for me, because I do. I have probably 8 Echo devices scattered here and there and everywhere.
And as we think about this, I really think it's a universal design choice, and designing in such a way so that whatever you do, it can withstand the loss of any one of the major senses. If your product still works and I can't see, if your product still works and I can't talk, maybe I can't talk because I have a disability. Maybe I can't talk because I'm not supposed to. I'm in the library.
But if we take the Echo platform as an example, when it first came out, it wasn't good for people who were deaf or people who couldn't speak. But they've solved that problem. Now they've got Echoes out there with screens, and they have them where you can type in instead of speaking. You can get captioning. Amazon has done a lot of great work once they got on the bandwagon with accessibility, and the Echo product is a perfect example of that.
Now, unfortunately, we have come to the end of the hour, and it always frustrates me because we definitely have another hour in us. But we've got some comments here to say thank you. We've a comment here from Lisa, who thanks everyone involved this evening and says this is by far the best talk in accessibility that they have seen, and it was very useful to see the demo by Patrick. We've also got another comment from Scylla. This was amazing and breathtakingly interesting. Thank you for all this precious information. And I need to echo these thoughts as well, that you were very generous with your time, very generous with your demonstrations. And thankfully, we're actually in cahoots with DQ to have future live events. So if you are aware that we didn't get enough coverage, don't worry, we will have more live events scheduled for into the next year, actually. So I'd like to thank Patrick, Matthew, and Glenda for giving your time and being so kind and so insightful as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Bye out.
Bye.